All right, I got Karen Cheong on the show today. She's an international transformational speaker, writer, healer, and champion for self-empowerment. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Karen, yeah, me too. By the way, you're known for cracking the manifestation code, which I absolutely love because I'm constantly reading about abundance, manifestation, and learning
Yeah.
from practitioners like yourself. And sometimes I feel like it's evading me, and sometimes I feel like I'm getting it, and sometimes I don't. And I think I'm not the only one. But
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you. But before we dive down manifestation and abundance and frequency, which I
Yeah.
love. Talk to me your story. How did you get here? Usually people like this, like yourself, they didn't get here overnight. And usually there's some kind
No.
of pain that led them to saying, why didn't I just do this a lot earlier?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, just so you know, I mean, my background is like I was an attorney, right? So that's my background is law. So like to be where I am now is like such a huge jump. It's ridiculous. And all my, Chinese ancestors are probably like, what is she doing? But yeah, so I certainly didn't intend to do what I do. It wasn't something that I was like, yeah, I really would love to have healing abilities. That sounds amazing. Sign me up for that. That wasn't what I wanted to do at all. What happened was, I'd been on a spiritual journey for about 25 plus years. I was curious. I was like, what is there that creates form or what we think is solid and real? Because I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain it's not what we think it is, right? And so I was just really curious and I wanted to know more. And probably like everyone listening to this episode, because they're like you kind of like want to implement different things to see what works, So I was learning all this stuff, like personal development stuff, all that good stuff. I was going down the, different energetic modalities, learning from different spiritual teachers, and I was combining it all and implementing it in our business. And so our business, just for clarification, is my husband, Chris, and I were living in San Francisco at the time, and we were helping people buy and sell their homes. So we had a real estate practice and a real estate team. We were really successful from the outside, right? So everything looked amazing. Lots of money in the bank. We had 90% referral rates. We really liked our clients. We didn't work with douchebags. We really like each other. Obviously we're working together in a business. So everything on the outside looks amazing. And yet what I found was every night I was spreadsheeting how many days we had left until we had to sell our house and move in with my parents, right? I was always worried we wouldn't have enough. And I was
Wow.
like, this is really bizarro, because Chris would be like, babe, just look at what we got in the bank. We're going to be fine. I'm like, no, I know,
Yeah.
but I need to map the cushion. And he was just like, okay, you and the cushion. So anyway, I was just like, something is wrong, because I feel this way internally, and yet externally it looks amazing. There's some kind of weird disconnect. And I'd done enough inner work to know that this was not normal, right? Not a normal experience, and that I didn't like it. And I also was looking around at some of our colleagues who didn't care as much about their clients, who weren't working as hard, didn't do as much for them, and yet they were outproducing us. And I'm like, what the hell am I missing? Like something but not adding up, right? So I
Yeah.
started to ask the universe a question. I don't know if you've ever asked a question to the universe. It's kind of funny. If you ask it enough, I've learned the answer will come to you in the weirdest ways, shapes, and forms, right? So the
Yep.
question I asked was, what am I missing?
Mm.
Why am I getting stuck at this ceiling? Like, what is it with this thing that I can't seem to break free from? So anyway, I asked myself that question enough. And then one day I had just come back from a journey to France, and I was sitting on my acupuncturist table. And as I was getting up, she said to me, have you ever heard of frequency work? Now, you know that scene in the Matrix movie where, Neo like goes back and all the bullets fly by him. It's very dramatic. Well, that was like my version of it, but like way lamer.
Yeah.
But, I actually could see like all the angles of the room as I was turning. And so time slowed down for me, which wasn't like this typical thing that happened. And I was like, no, but I need to. And so I started listening to these meditations, and I didn't have any outcome other than to not feel like I needed to spreadsheet. Like really honestly, that was like my outcome. And so what was weird with frequency work is as I released my distortions, I actually didn't feel that much at first. But after a few weeks of like, and I'm kind of like an intense person, just for everyone to know. So I was like, let's just get this done, right? So here I
Yeah,
Really,
just
see?
I just want to hurry up. Let's get this thing done.
Let's roll, right? Let's get it clear and then move on.
Karen, this is
Right?
so
That was
important though. I love that you're saying this because sometimes not sometimes, probably all the time, my wife and I joke about this. We have our own little meditation and breathing practice, and we both say like, we know it's necessary, it is helpful, but man, I just can't wait to get it done. Like, I just hurry
right.
up. Like, let's just get this
Yeah,
over with, you know? So yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of
yeah.
people, especially the high performers, people that are just go, 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 it's like we're just stacking and fitting more things in our day. And so people resonate with this. I love this story. Keep going.
Yeah. So totally. And so I was just trying to get to something that I just wanted to feel better. And so it was weird because like a few weeks into it, my husband Chris says to me, "Have you noticed that you're not spreadsheeting anymore?" I'm like, "No, actually, I totally hadn't noticed that I'd stopped doing that." So it was kind of this weird, subtle thing where my new normal didn't include the same level of fear, and it didn't include the same level of scarcity, and it didn't include the same level of worry. So I kept going because I was like, this is really odd. Like, I've never really experienced anything like this before. Anyway, fast forward 2 years. So here I am intensively doing this work. Yeah. And I just am doing it because, like you said, I'm an overachiever. So I was just like, well, what's possible?
Yeah.
Like, how do
Yeah.
we make this thing go faster, you know? And so, anyhow, I, for some reason, heard about this workshop that from a teacher I'd never heard of in Sedona. And I was like, I felt I'd done enough inner work, like I said, to know that I was called to go. And I was just like, man, this thing is like 12 days long. It's really expensive. And anyone out there who has their own business, like to take 12 days off of your business is like a really big deal. So I was like, this is freaking long and I don't know if we can handle it, but I'm going to go anyway. And so as soon as I signed up, I knew that I had to go because my mind was coming up with all kinds of resistance, like well, all the reasons why I shouldn't go. It's like this laundry list. And I kept like almost sending the cancellation thing and then I never did. But anyway, I go to this thing, right? So here I am in Sedona. I go to this retreat and I get there and I'm aware enough, like I have my own intuition enough to be aware that the field of that workshop, I mean, it's like 100 people in this room, was all filled with ego mind stuff. And what we were supposed to be doing is piercing into the absolute, which I didn't really understand. I was like, I don't even really know what the hell this means. But I knew that it was a really big jump. And I knew that there was a whole bunch of people trying to prove how awake they were in this room. I'm like, this room is totally unstable. It's got way too much ego mind stuff. There's no way we're going to be able to do what he says we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to leave. So can I just say, as somebody with a Chinese descent who is an overachiever, I don't take 12 days off my calendar, throw down thousands of dollars, and don't sit my ass in the chair, take notes, and then implement. Like that's not part of my like general makeup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what's gonna happen. So the fact that I chose to not go to the retreat was like a huge deal in itself. And then the next thing I did, which was totally, I don't even know where it came from, this idea, I was like, I'm just going to try and do what he said we're going to do on my own because I have 12 days. When do I ever have 12 days by myself to meditate? Like never, right?
Yeah.
So instead of filling it with all the other things I could have, I was just like, no, that's it. I'm just going to meditate. So anyhow, I did. And at one morning I went into meditation and I just raised my frequency resonance. Don't ask me how I thought I could do it. I don't even know. I just did it. And so when I did it, like I said, I went in the morning and my resonance rose and then I hit the ceiling and I was just like, I literally, like it was like a glass ceiling. Okay. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I realized, oh my God, I actually have to surrender who I think I am. Now, if you're an overachiever, I would say that I was an overachiever / control freak, right? So there's no way that I'm not going somewhere I don't know where it is, that I don't know what the outcome's going to be, that I don't know what it's going to look like in 3 years, and then I lose my identity of myself, right? Like that's not like generally like the map of like how I run my life. So it was terrifying for me.
Yeah.
And I guess for some people that would be easy, but for me it was utterly just like, holy crap, like this is scary. So I had to surrender, which was hard, and I did. And then all of a sudden I felt this upward momentum and I felt myself merge with everything. And the crazy thing is I really lost the identity of Karen, right? And I really felt not me, but everything. And then I started laughing because I couldn't believe that I'd forgotten that was part of the oneness. Like it was like forgetting that you have a hand. It's like right there. Like how do you forget it? It's, you know? And then after I laughed and laughed and laughed, I started to cry because I couldn't believe that I'd forgotten that I was part of the oneness. And so at that moment when I had finished, I mean, if you looked at me from outside, like through a window, you probably would have thought this woman's totally insane. But anyway, there I was having this experience. And I realized that everything was frequencies. Like I was aware of them. And I also realized that I could change things at that level. And I wasn't thinking, okay? So just to make this really clear to people, it wasn't like I thought it, I just knew it. So the idea of like, how the hell do I know this didn't even appear in my mind because I wasn't thinking. I just knew it. And then eventually I came out of this meditation and I realized it was dark. And I was like, that's really weird. Because, I went in the morning and I looked at the time and it had been 9 hours. I didn't go in thinking it was going to be a 9-hour meditation. I didn't know that any of this was going to happen. But what was crazy was after that meditation, I perceived still at the frequency level, I just thought it was going to go away, but it didn't. And so I was walking around Sedona, which is amazing, right? If you've ever been there, it's beautiful. So I'm like doing hikes, right? Meditating, doing hikes. And it was literally like the Matrix, where it felt like I could put my hand through the illusion. Like literally it felt like that. And I wasn't taking anything, okay, just FYI, right? I wasn't taking anything like water and like organic berries, whatever. So
Maybe you were dehydrated. No?
Maybe I was dehydrated. Yeah, maybe I just didn't have enough oxygen. It's totally possible.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had this feeling. And then I happened to have a friend who I hadn't seen in like 6 or 7 years. We happened to be overlapping for like 12 hours in Sedona. And so she's like, hey, why don't we see each other? I was like, okay, fine. So she comes over. She's talking to me about whatever, because we're connecting. And I'm like, I don't know why this busted out of me, but I was like, do you need help with what you're talking about? And she's like, she kind of looked at me funny and she's like, sure. And I was like, okay, right. Well, I'll just shift this around and whatever. And I didn't tell her, I just did the thing. And then I didn't hear from her, right? She left, she went on her merry way. I didn't hear from her. 3 days later, my phone starts blowing up. It's all her friends being like, hey, I heard you had a session with our common friend. Can you work on me? And I was like, sure, I guess. I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing really, right? Yeah. And that's how it began. Like I didn't ask for it. And so that is how it began.
Okay. We got a Tarantino. Let me go back in time here. This is wild. By the way, anybody listening, like this stuff sounds woo-woo or just fake.
Oh, for sure.
For sure, right? And I get that. I love the woo-woo, just so you know. I'm totally into it. But even me, I'm like, all right, that sounds like crazy, right? But I wanted to ask you a couple of things just going back. When you said you hit the ceiling, how did you know you hit the ceiling? Because you never hit it before. So like, and you weren't being guided through it, right? Like you were supposed to go to this 12-day. So for you, I'm just curious, a lot of us probably are meditating. What was that experience for you, or what maybe you had read of or other gurus had told you and you go, oh, this must mean hitting the ceiling. Well, like, what was that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't anything that I knew with my mind. So to just be really clear, I wasn't thinking, right? So this isn't like a regular thought. So like I had meditated before. So just for you all to know, like for me, when I started meditating, I would really just get annoyed because I would sit there and count my breaths and get distracted and then think about all the 10 million things that I had to do that I wasn't doing because I was sitting my ass on this cushion trying to meditate, right? So I was just—
Sounds like a normal meditation session for me. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that when you actually rise in your resonance, which has to do with frequency work, you're doing something other than just meditation. So the meditation state is helpful, but you actually need to quicken your vibration. So what I was doing in this meditation, just to be really clear, is I was raising my own frequency resonance, which has to do with rising or raising my own vibrational state. Okay, so how did I know I hit the ceiling? So I felt it. It felt like, I don't know, like imagine you're like, I don't know, somewhere, and all of a sudden you go like, dook. I mean, it felt like that. I know it sounds totally bizarre.
Almost like you're floating out of your body, right? Like you're out of your body at this point.
No, I was in my body. I was totally present in my body. I was very aware. I could feel my body. I could feel the shift happening. I could feel myself expand. I felt myself getting bigger, slam. I was like, and then I was like, well, at this moment, I was like, well, what's that? Because, here I am having this expansion state. So anybody who's expanding, and it feels really great. And all of a sudden you hit a ceiling, it doesn't feel great. So it feels like you're being stopped. So here I was, I hit the ceiling, literally. So it literally felt like here I was having this expansion, I was being stopped. So anybody who's having this expansive state, like if you've ever, for example, if you're looking at like a beautiful starlit sky or looking at a beautiful sunset, right? And you're with like the people you love, and all of a sudden you feel your heart expand because it feels really lovely, right? You're in this moment where it's like life is really beautiful and you can feel like this love for everything and you have the expansion. Imagine that. And then imagine it slamming up against something which doesn't allow you to experience it. Well, that's annoying, right? Yeah. That's the ceiling I'm talking about. So for me, that's what I hit. And I had this realization that, and it wasn't a thought, I just knew it. Like I need to surrender everything. And everything to me meant having to do with my identity of who I was. like really literally. And like I said, it wasn't like I went in there with like a checklist of what it was that I was trying to achieve. I hadn't read anything about what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. And then I encountered it. And then I realized I had to be okay with potentially like really losing my mind, right? Which is a really scary thing, right? Because I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, right? I honestly don't. But what happened is that I had to internally come to the point of acceptance of like, it's okay with me that I don't know who I am. It's okay that if I lose my mind, it's okay with me, right? For me, I had to go through that wrangling with, okay, I have to like release the control, the attachment to who I think I am in order to get to where I want to go. And it wasn't even that thought out. I'm saying it as if it were like that planned. It wasn't. I just
Right.
realized it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can go back in time and go, oh yeah, I know that that's what was happening. But at the time
Yeah.
you didn't know. You just kind of
No.
accepted,
Yeah.
and surrendered to everything that was
Yeah.
unfolding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
When you
I
talk
didn't
about
have this
shift,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice because I kept trying to do different things and I kept slamming against the freaking ceiling. So I was like, okay, well, here we are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, so then
Yeah.
you said you're talking about shifting frequencies, right? And so anytime I think of like frequencies, I think of like, I don't know, hertz and all these things. Oh, 528 hertz is like theta
Yeah.
state and stuff.
Yeah.
Was your brain going in a state where you're like, you could see it or you could feel like I am in this state? Because you said also, it's like, it wasn't really a logical state. You didn't know what you were doing, but you knew you could just shift into that frequency or that state, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me talk about frequencies first, if
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
okay. And
please. Yeah.
then it'll make more sense. Okay.
Perfect.
So from my perspective, everything is vibrating, right? So it's not like rocket science. I think pretty much people know this now, right? Different scientists have been talking about this for decades. And the vibrational rate is what determines the form of the thing. So if you take something really physical like water, if the molecules are vibrating really fast, it's steam. And when that slows down, it becomes liquid water. And when that slows down even more, it becomes ice, density, form, solid, right? So if you take that same idea and extrapolate it all the way out to consciousness, the oneness, pure source, whatever you want to call that very highly resonating consciousness from which everything comes and to which everything returns, that is vibrating at a rate that we as humans cannot measure with our physical tools. It is so fast in its vibrational rate. In order for that to have an experience of something other than itself as one, there must be a drop in vibration. At that moment, when the vibration drops, frequencies are formed. And when that vibrational level drops even more, it becomes energy. And when that vibration drops even more, it becomes thoughts, emotions, and physical form. So it really is having to do with the level of vibration. So how do you, to get to your question, how the hell did I know where I was? How did I perceive its frequency? Well, the higher your own vibrational level, the more you can perceive. So everything is possible in the infinite, right? Like everything exists already in the infinite, right? This is not very new as a concept. Deepak Chopra was talking about this in the 1980s, for God's sake, right?
Yeah.
So like the field has existed for as an idea, and people have known about it for a long time, and in ancient traditions even longer. So
Yep.
all of that already exists. So how do you access like more abundance, better manifestation, like spiritual awakening or whatever it is that you want to access? It all has to do with your vibrational rate. So if you can imagine that your vibration is like a keyhole, right? So it starts like this. So when it's low, you have the same kind of experiences that suck over and over again, right? It's just what happens. And however you rise in your vibration, there are many paths to the same thing, right? I'm not saying frequency works the only way. Whether you're doing inner work, whether you're doing, I don't know, whatever your thing is, your vibration can rise in many different ways, right? I'm not claiming that there's only one way. So what happens is that as your vibration rises, or your frequency resonance rises, same thing in my opinion, what happens is this keyhole starts to do this, right? And so this means that you get to see more of the field, right? Like now more of the field is accessible to you because you're like, oh, that's over. I didn't even know that was there. So it's like the key that gives you access to everything, because it's not like there's something wrong with you. It's just that the key that you're trying to use is the wrong one. You just need a key that's resonating higher to get into like that more abundance, the more manifestation, the more brilliance, the more connectivity, the more whatever it is that you want. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So on that note, then, is true abundance something that you attract, or is it something that you remove? Are we removing something, or are we attracting it?
Yeah.
Right?
I love that question. It's both. Okay. So the reason it's both is because, okay, let me talk about distortion first, and then I'm going to get to your question.
Yeah.
Okay. So from my perspective, there are things that are called distortion that happen at the level of the field that cause you to run up against the same stuff over and over again. So here you are doing all your homework, right? You're doing the meditation, you're doing your affirmations, you're going doing your inner work, you're doing your personal coaching, you're doing blah, 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 right? And just like me, right? I was doing all this stuff and I kept hitting the
Don't
same
forget
like
visualization,
scarcity.
Karen.
Yes,
Visualization too.
visualization, right? And
Yeah.
feeling the emotion, and feeling
Yes,
the
and
emotion as
feeling
if
it.
it's
Joe
done.
Dispenza talks
Right,
about
Joe
feeling it.
Dispenza. Yeah, totally. Did the whole Joe Dispenza thing. I totally
Yeah.
know. Yeah, totally.
Yep.
So I get it. So the reason Joe's stuff works and why it's so powerful is because what he does is he uses emotion to get your frequency resonance to go up. Like what happens when you feel love and gratitude? Of course, your resonance rises, right? I mean, think about what you feel when you feel grateful versus when you're pissed off. I mean, it's a totally
Yeah.
different vibration, right?
Yep.
So that's why it works. It starts to allow you to rise in your resonance and it opens that keyhole that I was talking about earlier. So the thing that keeps you stuck and why you can, like, even though you feel good in the moment, you can visualize certain things and sometimes you can get it and sometimes you can't, is because of these things called distortion patterns. So what the hell's a distortion pattern? So from my perspective, there are things that keep you from being merged back with the one. Okay. So let me just back up a little hot second here. So from my perspective, we're these spheres of pure source energy that vibrate at a very unique rate. Okay, it's what makes you, you, and me. That rate of vibration is individuation. Okay, it's very specific. And when you drop into embodiment, you have to drop in vibration because here you are as consciousness, which is very high in vibration. And then this thing, which is amazing, but obviously solid, is vibrating slower, right? Just like steam to ice, right? Same thing. So when you come into form, what looks like layers and 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 layers of duct tape form around the sphere. Okay, so the sphere is, there's nothing wrong with the sphere. Okay, it's not like it's damaged. People ask me sometimes, is there something wrong with my soul? I'm like, there's nothing freaking wrong with your soul. You just got crap around you, right? So the thing is, the duct tape makes you heavy. I mean, hello, have you ever like picked up a ball of duct tape? It's heavy, right? So imagine heaviness slows your vibrational rate down. Remember the keyhole getting smaller now because of the duct tape. And because you only see the duct tape, you forget there's pure source all around you all the time. So all that duct tape is like filters on your reality. So you see through that duct tape. You think the reality is the duct tape, right? So here's the thing. Where do your distortions come from? Well, they come from things like your lineage. Okay, so what your ancestors experienced very much informs who you are now. Even if you didn't know your 100th grandmother, like you don't know her name, right? This is epigenetics, right? This is the field of epigenetics that now are proving that like who your ancestors were and what they experienced very much informs how your genes express and the choices you make, right? So there's lineage. There's your cultural conditioning, right? There's your religious conditioning. Even if you were brought up in an agnostic household, right? No religion at all, fine. But I can guarantee you that somewhere down the road of your ancestors, someone was being influenced by religion, which then impacts you, right? And then you have past lives. So these are like a short list of most of the things that cause the layers of distortion, plus your own wounding, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what causes the duct tape. So why are the distortions there? Well, the distortions are there for you really to wake up to who you truly are. I know that sounds kind of like cheesy and like the back of a bumper sticker, but honest to God, that's what they're there for, right? Because really, if you can transcend your distortion enough, not perfectly, okay, overachiever people out there, not completely, just enough, what will happen is if you release distortion at the level of the quantum, the field, frequency, whatever you want to call it doesn't really matter to me. If you release it there, because it's higher in vibration, the lower order of things, the lower vibration will reorganize around the higher vibrating thing. It's kind of like, you know, those lottery ticket winners, right? They win like gajillions of dollars, right? And you're like, how do you lose $250 million? But yet, like in a couple of years, they've lost it all, you know? Are they all dumb? No. You know, they just have all these distortion patterns of scarcity. So it doesn't matter how much you put in. If you have the distortion pattern of scarcity running, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have scarcity. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So even if you're vibrating at this higher state temporarily and you don't remove all that other stuff, you just go right back to you just go back to that low vibration state.
Yes. And you perceive everything through distortion. So you know how you were talking about manifestation, how much you love it? How many of us manifest because we're afraid? We're afraid we're not going to have enough. We're afraid we're never going to experience it. We're afraid we're not powerful enough to change our reality. What is that distortion? It's fear and scarcity. What are you creating more of? You, in the very desire you have to try and create something new, is that seed of that distortion. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's still there.
It's like the phrase where, you can't put sugar on poo because you still
Yeah.
got poo, right? So it's like, I can take my little brain tap device and I can manifest at 4 in the morning, because that's when Joe Dispenza says melatonin is at the highest in the pineal gland. But that doesn't really matter, because I'm manifesting from a place of fear and scarcity and lack, because
Yeah.
I'm really wanting something.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not going to get that because it's coming from the wrong source, essentially. You're
Yeah.
not.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's not even the wrong source, Joel. It's that you have these distortion patterns running through you, right? So just imagine, right? You're looking at this sunset and it's really beautiful and it's like an ocean view. It's gorgeous, right? But then you put a filter that's like orange, and then you put a filter that's slightly wobbly, and then you put another filter that's yellow and gray and whatever and whatever. And then eventually when you look through all those filters, the sunset isn't that glorious. It looks muddy and kind of dark and distorted. That's what you see. And you think that that is real. So you keep creating more of it. I know. It's horrible. So the thing is,
That
right?
is horrible. Yeah.
It is horrible. But the
Yeah.
thing is, that's really glorious, is that you can release your distortion patterns, right? I'm not saying there's no hope. There is. So you can just release your distortion patterns. Now, is there more than one way of releasing a distortion pattern? Of course, right? Like we all do different kinds of inner work. I'm not judging the inner work. Do your inner work. But the wonderful thing about consciousness rising, whether or not you look at the around us, the world today, and you're like, well, sure doesn't look like consciousness rising. Sure looks like everything's going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
But the thing is, consciousness is rising. Because if you think about it, right? Even 30 years ago, people didn't even know what acupuncture was, right? They were just like, that's bizarro. Like even yoga was weird. Okay.
Right.
Now everyone's doing it. And I'm not saying that's like, the pinnacle of anything, but you know what I mean? Like it's just like what we know about energy and resonance. And even the fact that we are having this conversation indicates that consciousness is rising. We are aware of more. And because consciousness is rising, what's amazing is that someone like me can perceive at this level and release these distortion patterns at the level of the quantum. So just to make something else really clear, please know you are the one who has free will. You have the power to create your reality. You're co-creating it all the time in every single second, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So the thing is, even though I release it at the level of the field for you, which creates this huge forward momentum for you, you have free will. So you are co-creating your reality. You have to do this process that I call confirming the removal, which is like, no, that doesn't exist for me anymore, right? That just is no longer my reality. You have to participate, right? A lot of people think that I'm going to like wave my magic wand and throw holy water on you or like say some mantra over your head, whatever. That doesn't happen, right? I do the work that I do. Now, you have to move with it, right? So for all you overachievers out there, you're like, oh yeah, bring it, right? Like I'm not afraid to do the work, right? Most overachievers are like, there's work to do. Let me at it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You got to do it. And and the reason I say this is because there's this weird power dynamic that happens with like gurus or teachers or, whomever is quote unquote teaching that, they're going to save you. No one's going to save you. You're saving you, right? It's your life. It's your journey. It's what you get to create and who you get to be. So please know that I don't care what the hell anyone tells you, okay, including me. This is your journey. It's your power. It's your liberation. It's what you get to experience. And I say that because so many people, and I'm sure you know this, Joel, because you're a coach, how many times do you give somebody a tool and they don't use a bloody tool? You're like, pick up the freaking tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing,
Yeah,
and I'm guilty of it too, is it's usually always going back to the basics. Clients will always come back and have the same problem. Like, well, did you do the first thing like we talked about? It's like, no, it's like, and sometimes the basics aren't sexy. So nobody wants to do it, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly. It's not sexy.
It's not sexy.
No.
Yeah. So nobody wants to do it, but usually it's the path of, it's that like Occam's razor, right? Whatever the most obvious solution is probably that. So you should do that first.
Yeah.
And sometimes like we want these cool, sexy tools, but we don't need them. Yeah. It's more simple than that.
Yeah, it is more simple. And I think the thing that I also just want to mention is that, a lot of people are looking for that magic bullet, like you said, right? And they want the cool and the sexy and the thing that will give them the whatever and the flash and all that sort of stuff. But really, whatever it is that you want, whatever you're seeking, Okay, I realize this is going to sound totally like a Hallmark card. You have access to it. You just have to clear your distortion. The more you can clear your distortion, the higher your vibration, the more you can do. And the weird thing is it's not more that you can do as in like, I need to get more done in my day. It's more like the more you have access to with less doing effort. Okay. So just for clarity, like you're talking to somebody who had like a 5-year plan that was very detailed, and I knew exactly what I was doing when, and I had like chunked it down. And I knew exactly what I was doing to get my outcome, right? So this is the type of person you're talking to. I've thrown that away, and I still plan when I need to use my mind, but it really has to do with the mind becoming not the dominant force. It becomes this thing that you use as a tool. Obviously, you need to use your brain. I mean, clearly, or you're not going to get anything done. But really, you're being guided by something higher. And I don't mean spirit guides outside you. I mean you. This is you, the part of you that I call the big S self. You as infinite, indestructible consciousness, right? Nothing outside of you, just you at a different order. You know, that nudge that tells you, hey, maybe you should go to this thing or talk to this person that you wouldn't normally, or you're late for a reason. You're like, oh, that's weird. I'm late by about, 5 minutes. I'm usually on time. Who am I going to talk to today? That part of you, that intuitive part of you, that starts to lead more. And the weird thing is when you start to be able to be in the space where you actually are in this term that I used to hate all the time called flow, because I was just like, this sounds so lame. I don't even know what people are talking about. But when you get into flow, it really is, you don't have to effort as hard. I'm not saying you don't work. Okay. So please know, I didn't say don't work, but it's not as hard. Like, you know what I mean? And then you can release all these patterns around struggling. And then things just like sort of come in at the right time. Like serendipity shows up, collaboration drops in, opportunities open. You're like, whoa, where the hell did this come from? And all of a sudden you're in a different trajectory that you were in before. And that's what happens as your resonance rises. Like literally the pace of change is really fast because what's opening to you with that keyhole gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in a way that's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah. Wow. So cool. I wanted to ask you, going back at the example you gave when you first started this journey, you were doing real estate and your friends, you were talking about your colleagues were really successful, but it also sounds like they maybe weren't as they probably even at that time hadn't done a lot of the inner work or hadn't done a lot of the development, didn't work as hard. So why do you think now looking back that they were more successful than you, even though they weren't trying as hard and probably hadn't done as much inner work and didn't care for their customers? Like, why were they being successful?
Yeah. So we all have different layers of distortion in different things, right? So for some of us, we have a lot of distortion around abundance, right? But for us, relationships easy. Like the people that we have in our lives, our connections are rich. We have wonderful partnerships. It's easy for us. And then for other people, their health is a problem or whatever. But it's funny because for us in our culture, we really want abundance and we think material wealth is it. We're like, because everything in our social media and in our culture is like, if you're wealthy, then you're free. Are you really free if you're materially wealthy alone? I'm not saying that everyone who's materially wealthy isn't free. Okay, I did not say that. And I'm not saying that they're not all like empty people. I didn't say that either. But as a culture, we tend to put emphasis on material wealth as opposed to something that I call spherical abundance, which is abundance on all levels, right? Spiritually, materially, in your relationships, in your body, like how you feel, all that sort of stuff is really important. Now, the thing is, for those people, the people who were like producing more, it's funny because if you get to know them, they never have time for their kids. They don't have time to do what they really want. They always have to chase, even though they have a lot, right? They don't ever have, time to really enjoy. So, we did really well too, but I never really enjoyed it because I was always terrified that I didn't haul ass. We weren't going to have enough real quick. Right. So there was no relaxing. I mean, we traveled a lot. Okay. So please don't get me wrong. Like we had quite a lot of disposable income. So we were traveling a lot. But even then, it was just sort of like, I can't take my eye off the ball. Because if I take my eye off the ball, ball's going to drop, then we're going to have a problem. Right?
Yeah.
That totally changes when your resonance starts to rise and you release your distortion because you start to, and I realize this sounds totally hokey, but you start to not only have this greater level of surrender, you start to trust the unfolding and that you really are going to be okay. And the weird thing is abundance shows up for you because you're not attached to it. I know, again, that sounds annoying and like a Zen riddle, but
Mm.
honest to God, I had tried to release attachment with my mind many, many, many times, and it just didn't work. You can't release attachment with your mind. You really have to release it at the level of the field, at the level of distortion. It starts to go away more and more. Does it show up in once in a while? Yes, of course, because you're human and you're meant to have a human experience. It's not about perfection, right? It's just about, is it like way the hell better? Yeah, right? And the
Yeah.
funny and ironic thing is that what we do now, even though it is totally different and how we contribute is totally different, we have so much more abundance in so many more ways than just the material. And even materially, we're doing better, right? So I'm just saying, like, you don't have to change what it is that you're passionate about. You don't have to change what it is that you love. It's just about releasing your distortion. So you start to experience a different kind of abundance. And the weird thing is, it shows up the less and less attached you are to it.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. I had a manifestation teacher who worked with Bob Proctor, and he said, Joel, he said, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they don't relax into the manifestation.
Yeah.
And I never had heard that before. And I thought that was, and it's kind of what you're talking about, this,
Yeah.
not being so attached and being able to surrender. And I thought, yeah, there was just that letting go and being in that relaxed state, relaxing into the manifestation. Very
Yeah.
difficult to do. It's almost like you guys are kind of saying very similar things, but just kind of,
Yeah, and
yeah.
exactly, exactly. And the thing is, I always, because they always say, like, try and forget what you're trying to manifest. I'm like, oh, I'm not forgetting what I'm manifesting. Like, I'm really clear.
You're looking at your goal card
Yeah.
every 2 seconds. Right here.
Exactly.
This is
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, I got it, right? Like, I know what I'm visualizing. Right.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's funny, as we're talking about manifestation. So what I teach is something called quantum manifestation. And the thing that what he was teaching you is correct. So in order to get to quantum manifestation, you actually have to release the distortion pattern of attachment. Not entirely, okay, just enough to experience different things. And you can't think your way to releasing attachment. It's really hard. Like you just said, you can't not want what the hell it is that you want. You want it, right? I mean, that's the whole point. If not, why the hell would you be bothering to manifest it?
Right.
So the thing is, you have to release attachment, which is like a tough thing. But what's amazing is, as you start to release your distortions, your resonance rises. And when your resonance rises, two things happen. One is you start to enter what I call more neutrality, where any outcome is okay with you, truly, not because you're trying to get something, but truly you're like open to all outcomes. You're like, okay, well, that's entirely possible. I'm okay with it. All right. So you get to this place where you're not attached so much to the outcome because you know that whatever's coming is there for you in order to grow and to clear something else and for something else to happen that you don't know yet. Okay. Like we like to know as humans exactly what's happening and why. At least I did. Right. That's called certainty. And so, but the more you rise in your resonance, the less certainty you need. It's the weirdest thing. And you come to this space of neutrality, which allows you then to surrender because you can try to surrender. Believe me. Okay, I tried to surrender. It didn't happen. You really have to release the patterns that keep you from surrendering in order to enter that surrender state. And it's not surrender, because I think a lot in our culture, we think of surrender as weak. Like, oh my God, they've got me at knife point. I have to surrender. But it's not that, right?
Yeah.
It's actually being aware of how strong you are. So you are willing to surrender. I call it surrender from strength, where you're like, look, I can do this. Like I know somewhere within myself, I can transcend it. So it's all right that I surrender my will, not to anything other than pure source. Okay. Just to be super duper really clear, right? So that's all you're surrendering your will to. And then you allow for more things to happen because you're not so gripped onto it. And because you're not so gripped onto it, more can happen. So I have this lovely little story. I had a client who did my quantum manifestation workshop. And she was like, okay, in my course I teach, like, try and manifest something small, because what happens is you attach to it otherwise, right? So something small is not because you're not powerful, it's just because you're beginning and you need to practice. Okay. So she decides, she lives actually in the Oakland Hills in California. And she used to go into San Francisco to her favorite coffee shop to have a meeting with her business partner. So she's like, okay, I'm going to my favorite coffee shop tomorrow. I'm going to manifest a free cup of coffee, right? Okay. So off she goes to the coffee shop. She's like done her thing, right? She raised her resonance to the quantum, did her thing, went into the coffee shop. She's like smiling at everyone. Hey, how you all doing? Right? No coffee. She's like, didn't work, right? But she was really attached to it showing up then because she'd just done it then, right? So she's like, I wonder what's wrong. And she's like, I think I'm too attached to it. But then she kind of forgot about it, right? Because she's busy. She's got 2 kids, busy life, etc. She forgot. So she started to work a little bit on her attachment patterns and then like dropped it. You know, like all of us, we're doing a little bit at a time. The
Yeah.
next week, she goes into the same coffee shop because she has another meeting. And she's forgotten right now about the coffee, right? It's like a whole freaking week later, lots has happened. There she is in the coffee shop, and she usually has a private booth with her partner because they record their own podcast. But the booth wasn't available, so they put them somewhere else, like in the back somewhere, so they wouldn't be bothered. And it's kind of hard to see, and it's kind of hard to get to, right? So all of a sudden, they're just wrapping up their podcast, and they're just having their meeting. And the manager shows up. He's like, hey guys, how's it going? And she's like, yeah, hi, I haven't seen you in a while. And he's like, I just wanted to thank you guys for being such great clients, because every time you come into town, you come to our shop, and you're so like lovely to be with. I'd like to give you this free bag of swag. So in the free bag, there's a free coffee mug, there is a USB cable, there's like a battery charger, there's a $10 coupon for free coffee, and something else that I can't remember. That's what she got when she released attachment to the free cup of coffee.
I love that. That is so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. Karen, talk to me now. Like, if people are curious and they're like, okay, Karen, you got me, I want to work with you, or like kind of just because you mentioned a lot of different terms, you kind of sprinkled them out throughout the show, saying the quantum manifestation technique, the meditation, releasing distortion patterns. But like, if I were to work with you, like, what does it look like? Do you take people through like a 10-week kind of guidance, or like do you start with removing distortions, I'm assuming, first, and then like just in general, like if someone's like interested, like what does that typically look like?
Yeah. So I just want to talk about the distinction between group and one-on-one. So in our culture, we often think one-on-one is the most powerful way, right? Like if you'd asked me 7 years ago, I would have been like, I want a one-on-one session with this woman like prontissimo, right? I want to clear all my crap. Let's get moving, right? That's what I would have said to you. All right. So you can have a one-on-one session, right? And I do offer them. I'm offering fewer and fewer of them, but you can have one of those, and it's very powerful, and it can help you with very specific stuff. The thing, though, that I just want to mention is that what I call group frequency calibrations are really important. And before you think it's going to cost you a lot of money, just know that I also have my podcast. There's over 200 episodes. At the end of every episode, there is a free GFC. Okay? So you can get it for free. So anyway, a group frequency calibration is so powerful because it's the power of a mastermind. So meaning that all these people, in terms of their higher selves, are coming together. Now, remember that I work at the level of the field of the quantum, so I work beyond space-time. So anyway, you're listening to it at different points in time, but because of the timestamp, you enter the eternal now, which is where I give my work. Whether you understand that or not, doesn't really matter. It just works, right? It's like you were there at the time that I was giving it live. Okay, that's a better, easier way to understand it. So anyway, you have this mastermind, but the amazing thing is they're there to clarify their relationship with pure source, and also to release this distortion pattern that you hold in common. Now, the weird thing is that everyone who comes together has different strengths and different weaknesses. So that gives you momentum, right? So the mastermind, literally, Joe Dispenza talks about the mastermind too, right? It takes off. It has its own rhythm, and it has a lot of power. And because you're participating in it, it allows you to release more of your distortion patterns more deeply. So the thing is, you can listen to group frequency calibrations, and people literally will write in and be like, I know you gave that to a lot of people, but I swear to God, it was like you were talking just to me. And that happens all the time. So you can get a group frequency calibration, like I said, after my podcast episodes. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Spotify. You can also, I have YouTube lives once a month, and I give a free group frequency calibration there. Anyway, so there's a lot of different stuff. If you just go to my website, sphericalluminosity.com, you'll find about how to start and where to work, how to begin and how we work and all that good stuff. But it's all there. And I would start with listening to the podcast. And the reason I say that is because it's free, right? Yeah. So you're like, gee, she seems relatively normal. I'd like to learn more. Yeah. So I listened to the podcast and then listened to the group frequency calibration. The YouTube live ones, the group frequency calibrations are really strong. So if you want to get a sense of what that's like, do that. I give monthly programs. I give a high-end mastermind. I give retreats. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But start there because I feel like that would be the easiest way. And also for your listeners, Joel, what we're going to give is a free Quiet Your Mind group frequency calibration because there's a lot to freak out about right now. And I think there's a lot of people who are worried about everything, including like how they're going to feed their families and how they're going to pay their bills and, how are they going to get to whatever it is they want to get to and the impact they want to have and the abundance they want to achieve. So I think the first thing is to quiet the mind because, man, there's a lot going up in there that's not that helpful to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And I love the idea. I think there's so much power in the group because we all learn from each other, like you said. And
Absolutely.
then through the collective, there's a higher frequency too. I think we're all generating, right? A higher
Yeah,
frequency when we all come together in that mastermind. So that's really,
absolutely.
really powerful. Yeah, man. And so I guess it sounds like too, with everybody, there's no necessarily linear path, right? In the
No.
sense that, oh, Joel comes here. First thing we're gonna do is we got to release your distorted
Oh my God,
frequency.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
So, okay, that's what I was wondering because it just seems like when you start looking at, you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, and you probably have a lot of data people coming through, they probably, I don't know, 90% people probably do need to first quiet the mind, then release distorted frequencies, and then they can
Yeah.
enter like this, then they start to bring up their resonance. I was kind of thinking of it like in this very linear fashion, like we have to kind of remove things and then bring up your frequency. But for everybody, it sounds like, no, it's very different.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is, as you release your distortion patterns, as a natural consequence, your resonance rises. So you don't have to do two things. It's actually a twofer, right? You actually release your
Well, like
distortion
the
patterns.
example with your friend, all you did was release some distorted frequencies, right? And she called you back
Yeah.
3 days later and was
Yeah.
like, that worked.
Like,
I don't know what you did, but thanks.
yeah, I don't even really care. Just
Yeah.
let's do more of that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, right. And so it's like, do you really need to know how electricity works to benefit from it? No, just plug in the computer, right? I mean, it's fine. Right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing. And the great thing is that like it's going to sound like a guided meditation to you, like to a lot of people. You don't have to be completely inert and still. Okay, for those of you who like to move, like I have a lot of people who listen to these things when they're running. You know what I mean? They'll work out, they'll like lift weights as they listen to it. That's fine. You don't have to be like sitting on your little cushion not moving. Please move if that helps you. Like some people listen to them when they're cleaning their house or like making dinner. So that's fine. Just do it and be present with it, right? And so I never know, to answer your first question, what it is that I'm going to work on. I don't have an agenda. So what I'm doing is I'm scanning the field of the infinite for the frequency resonance that is you. And then I'm in response to your higher self as to what is priority. And then I move. I don't know why. I don't ever talk to my clients. So I don't know your story. I mean, they say, hi, my name's Lindsay. And I'm like, hi, welcome to your session. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick scan, right? Like, I mean, literally, that's like the extent of our
Yeah.
conversation. And then I'll say, does that sound familiar to you? And they'll either laugh because they're like, what WTF was
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, yeah, okay, right? And so that's how a one-on-one would seem. And I don't need to know your story. Your
Mm.
story is a result of your distortions. I'm not interested in your story as it is right now. What I'm interested in is to release your patterns so your resonance can rise and so you can awaken in this lifetime. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And so
I
yeah,
love that. And I
yeah.
think most people would rather have that anyways. Less talking about their feelings and stuff. Like, let's get
Let's
to
just
it.
get to it.
Do what you got to do to me and make some things work.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you a couple more questions and then wrap things
sure,
up. But
absolutely.
you know, I was curious for someone like you who has done so much of the inner work and has gone through 25 years of this work and training and just everything that you know right now.
Mhm.
What are some of your just rituals or practices that you do on a regular basis? Do you still do like some type of meditation or something just to quiet your
Absolutely.
mind daily? Or like, yeah, what are some of
Yeah.
the things that you just do on a regular basis to keep that resonance high?
Up. Yeah. So the first thing I do is awareness. I mean, I know that sounds really almost obvious, but honestly, awareness and being really present. So I realize it sounds like almost like this little bumper sticker, but it's shocking actually how distracted we are in our culture, right? Like we've got 100
Mm.
million things to do. We've got the kids, the wife, the work, the phone buzzing, the social media, all the stuff you got to deliver, blah, 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 right? All that stuff. So for me, it has to do with awareness. So I have a number of things that help me to become present in my body. So one is I like to work out. That's me, right? I like to move my body, right? So whether it's lifting weights or doing HIIT workouts, whatever, I don't care. I use it for the physical benefit, but I use it. I mean, anybody who knows who uses exercise like this, it helps you, right? It stops your mind chatter. It stops like freak out. It just helps you feel good, right?
Talk
Because you're
about flow
present. And
state. That's where I usually get to my flow state through exercise.
exactly.
Yeah.
Through exercise. Yeah. And why? Why does exercise work? Exercise works because you have to be really present in your body in this moment in linear time. That's
Mm.
the access, the gateway to the infinite. Honestly, like if you're not there when you're manifesting, you're not going to manifest as clearly. You have to be in that state. Why? Because that is when you can enter the eternal now or the quantum. This is like time in the infinite, right? That Joe Dispenza, when he goes void, all that stuff, like that's where you're going,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
going into the quantum field. So the thing is, exercise is such an important, like, because really, honestly, if it feels like your heart's going to explode out of your chest, are you thinking about what's for dinner? No, you're thinking about how do I take the next breath, right? There is no thinking. You're just like,
Right,
oh
right.
my God, am I going to survive in the next 5 seconds, right? So that's why exercise is really great. So I use it the same way you do. And I also meditate because it feels good to me, right? So
Mm.
I tend to have a practice in the morning and at night. So here's the thing. Everyone's like, Karen, what do you do for your meditation practice? It depends, right? It depends. So sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not in my center. That's weird. Okay. So I'll pull myself back into my awareness of my center, right? And I'll clear, or if I'm aware that I'm like, I'm not in my center because I'm feeling a little something off. Okay. So I'll just sit with myself and I clear my own distortion. Okay. So I don't teach anything I don't do,
Yeah.
right? I do the same work that I teach. I'm not saying you all do it and I'm better than you. I do the same thing that everyone else does. So I do that. Or in the morning, I'll, sometimes it might be, it doesn't matter to me whether it's 2 minutes or 25 minutes. Really, it's about, can I come into my center, be present in the moment, raise my resonance, feel my connection to everything? We're good, right? So if there's a little bit more there where more is revealed to me in that moment, great. If I feel like manifesting in that moment, great. If I feel like what, you know what I mean? I don't have a separate thing. The most important thing for me in that meditation practice, which doesn't have to be that long, is can I be with myself in this moment in time and deliberately, intentionally raise my resonance? Now, the thing is, I teach a lot of tools on how to do this, right? So I made it sound like it's actually not hard, but you have to intend it and make the 2 to 5 minutes to do it in the morning, right? So really, and a lot of people, what they'll do is one of the practices, if you don't know how to do that, is I have this thing called the morning meditation, setting the tone of the day. It's like 15 minutes and it sets your frequency resonance at the highest possible it can be set at for that day. So your day unfolds completely differently than it would have otherwise. So a lot of people, what they'll do if they don't have meditation practice is literally like it's in their phone. They roll over, put their thingies in, listen to the thing, then get up and pee. And that's their day. Like that's their ritual. Really
Gotcha.
helpful. It changes
Wow.
everything. So it's the same, their version of like me, what I do for myself. Make sense? So it just kind of is a different format. But to
Yeah.
me, those are the two things that make a difference. And then in terms of ritual, I think it's really, really important that every, like so often when I'm working, because we generate a lot of content at Spherical Luminosity, because really we do a lot to make things accessible to people. So there's a lot to be done. And, our team is busy. I think it's really important to have every so often what I call resonance snacks. You know how a lot of times right now on social media, they're talking about movement snacks, like you get up and you move for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can get up and move and go for a walk and also do something to raise your resonance. Okay, so whatever that is. So maybe when you're walking, you think of a moment that makes you feel happy, or someone that makes you feel
Mhm.
loved, or you just connect with the earth, or whatever the hell the thing is. It honestly doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you read something inspirational, or whatever you do, or maybe you listen to a group frequency calibration. Honestly, honest to God, it doesn't matter. Whatever in your day, like not consistently, but like I kind of like, because I like variety. If I know it's going to come, I'm going to
Yeah.
blow it off, right? I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's not important, right? You're just like, I got to get this other thing done. But if I have an alarm on my phone, it's like random, then I'll do it. I'm like, okay, I just got to do this. Even if it's 5 minutes, I'm just going to put in my little resonance
Mm.
snack. Super helpful.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I love that so much. I've never heard of just like you nailed it. Just like doing a movement snack. All you got to do is add, you could do your movement, but then add a resonance snack on stack
Yeah.
it. And
Just
that's
stack it.
so powerful. Usually my movement snack is, maybe I need another cup of coffee, but I think instead I'm going to start doing resonance snacks. I love that. My God, Karen, you're one of the first guests I've had over 300 episodes, multiple guests talk about manifestation, the quantum, and you're one of the first people I can say who just made it really practical and
Oh, thank you.
really feel attainable and easy to digest, which I really appreciate.
Thank you.
And just really, really nice. Great work. I'm so excited for everything that you're doing. Can you just
Thank
tell
you.
everybody where they can connect with you and learn more about you
Yeah.
if they want to either work with you and your team or just tune into the podcast? Like, where are you out on social,
Yeah.
or where's the website, all that kind of good stuff?
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, so you can find me at sphericalluminosity.com. That's spherical as in a sphere, and then luminosity.com, two L's. And then you can find me on YouTube, right? So we have our own channel, Spherical Luminosity. You can find me on Instagram, Spherical Luminosity. But for those of you who are really curious, I actually would dive into our YouTube, because that's where you find, or Spotify, right? You can find us there as well, because that's where you're going to get like more of the meat. Like if you're curious, if you're somebody, look, if you're someone who like I was, you're like, I need to understand this. Like, what is she saying? What does that mean? How do I get there? What, like, I need to understand more. Then I would watch our podcast, you know, or any of the stuff that we issue that is longer format, because then you're going to get more meat out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than Instagram is great. I'm not poo-pooing Instagram. It's fine. But like, this is a little deeper than like a minute clip. I mean, yeah, you can get stuff out of a minute clip, but if you really want to know how to do this, then I would suggest the longer form on YouTube. Yeah.
Amazing. Karen Cheong, thank you so much. Spherical Luminosity, appreciate you so much. Can't wait to have you back on.
Thank you, Joel.
Yep.
Oh, I'd love to be back. Thank you so much.